chance here. Charlie Corcoran! Oh, that's wonderful!
On this power play, so no real true team, and it's shot comes in. There's the leveller!
Vincent scores! Davies around row. Oh, what a goal! One opportunity for the Stones. Shot through the goal!
Big chance for Bludov. He scores!
Shot through traffic. It'll come back out. Oh, what a stop! What a stop to deny Lake.
Well, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this. We've finally worked out Zoom. It's only taken us 18 months of the lockdown, and that's because we've got a new social media guy and our producer. In the top corner there, you'll recognise, we're going to call him KBT because his name is Kieran Batham-Tompkins. And that's far too much for the likes of Ron Shudra and Jonathan Firmley to remember. So Kieran's the man in charge tonight. And boys, I think really the purpose of today was just to take a look back at the last 5 weeks. Firstly, I thought it was terrific. But, the Elite Series, Jonathan, it was a success, wasn't it?
From a fan perspective, from watching the games, absolutely, because we got loads of terrifically tight, entertaining games, lots decided by one goal, several in overtime. The only thing that it really lacked, and looking at it as a neutral, it wasn't a great final. The two games in the final were two of the poorer games, really. There were many more games from the group stages that would have made for a better final. But in terms of the entertainment and the quality of hockey, I think it was a lot more than I was expecting, a lot more than most were expecting. So as long as the clubs have made the money that they needed to from it, we can put a big tick next to this.
Ron, we spoke many times about the new British players coming through, and it was a good opportunity to see a lot of new faces and a lot of older faces that perhaps hadn't had a lot of ice time, got a lot more ice time, and then some new kids coming that we all know about now as well.
Well, that's true. That's what you want to see, don't you? That it was built to help get the GB guys going and getting them ready. Well, the next generation of GB guys have to come from somewhere as well. So a series like this, where you only have the sort of the 8, 9, 10 imports, whichever way you want to do it, allows your senior GB guys to get a little bit of ice time. But then you get the guys that are the next generation of them. The ones that are the 22, 21, 23, 20. That sort of age. We've got lots of guys that are getting up there, 29, 30, 31. We kind of got a couple in the middle, at 25 and 26, but then it really falls away. So we need to find from somewhere to get them the way forward for them. We need to get them the experience. And if this season is anything good that comes out of the Elite Series, we've seen that there's some pretty darn good young British guys around. And to be fair, there's a lot more that we don't know about, or that we just don't see because they're not having the opportunity to be snapped up by the Elite League teams yet.
The fans liked it as well, didn't they, Kieran? You monitored all the social media. You did all the social media from the Steelers games, and the response back from the supporters was nothing but positive.
Really, yeah, no, it's been really good. And I think taking a bit of Jonathan and Ron's comments there, it sort of started off with a lot of hype about the Hewitts coming back and Myers coming to play for the Steelers and so on. But it really ended with people talking about your Wallers and your Sam Jones and putting pressure on Russell choosing between Bounds and Whistle, etc. So it's really been good from an all-round perspective of fan entertainment and that GB progression.
Ron, your boy got drafted by Coventry and played a big part in their series. Did he enjoy going to a new team just for a short period of time? Was it something that's going to benefit him as he looks forward to a full Elite League season?
Well, I think so, yeah. Anytime you can go and be coached by different people, you're learning different ways of doing things. It's like any job. If you have the same manager or whatever that does it the same way for 50 years, you're not going to learn and be creative and do something different. Whereas you have a different coach. He had the Swedish coaches this year. He had Tommy Watkins this year. He had Stewie this year. Obviously, had Aaron. He's had some pretty darn good coaches. Timmy Wallace in Milton Keynes. So he's seen a lot of different angles, maybe on the same way that the game is supposed to be played, but you see it from different ways and different perspectives. And you also get to see how different coaches want you to play. Stewie want them just to go out, play hard every shift the best they can, be competitive every shift, keep turnovers down, Timmy was the same. Get it deep. Let's work hard for each other. Make sure we keep control of the puck as best we can. Aaron, let's run and gun it a little bit sometimes if you have the opportunity. Try to keep possession. Be a possession team. The Swedish guys were very much the same. If you don't have anything, let's bring it back. Let's regroup. Let's look for something. So you're all trying to do the same sort of things, but you're attacking the offensive zone in a little bit different way, and you try to be creative within your skill set that helps other players around you. You get guys that have not used to playing on first line minutes. All of a sudden, some of the British guys are getting up there, and you can see that they have some pretty good ability when you put with players of a higher ability. They can bring their game right up. Whereas if you always don't give them the opportunity to play into those areas, they're never going to get the chance to show that they can actually progress and play up and down the lineup. Let's say it could be first line, second line, third line, fourth line guy, or up and down the pairings as defense. If you don't give a chance to actually try it, how is a coach ever going to know? Or you can't do it in practice. It doesn't work. You have to give them the opportunities.
If you take Jonathan, what Ron's just said there, Sam Jones would be a great example. When he was signed for us last year, I think Ben O'Connor, David Phillips were all part of the Steelers' plans. Ben's now, the relationship with the Steelers and Ben has disappeared. So therefore, somebody like Sam Jones has gone on show to Aaron Fox to say, hey, I can actually, not become a Ben O'Connor because Ben's at a different stage of his career, but I can play in a six. I'm one of the six. I know you signed me as maybe a 6-stroke, 7-stroke utility guy, but actually Aaron Fox has had, if you like, a free look at Jones and perhaps might change his ideas on him.
It was interesting how partway through the tournament, and we discussed this on a couple of our live streams, how the Steelers changed their defence partway through. And I think it was to allow Sam Jones to go and play the way he wanted to play. He was so impressive over those first few games in an attacking sense, the way that he was calm on the puck and able to carry it forward with a bit of authority, the way that he drove the net and scored. It gave Aaron Fox a thought of, he should do this more often. And so the way he played in those first few games set up the remainder of the tournament for him, putting him alongside David Phillips, who's been part of the GB setup for a decade now, to go and basically play alongside one of our best defensemen. Yeah, it was technically the third pairing, but the Steelers rolled all those pairs fairly evenly. He got time on all of the units because he started well and he earned that place. There were other players who, throughout the tournament, had good moments, but it was those consistently good performances early on that got him onto a role that Aaron Fox might be looking for in the future as more of an offensive defenseman rather than just, hold him back, make sure he doesn't do anything silly. No, let him go because he showed that he was capable of it.
Ronnie, is it important that we also remember that they are still young, they are still kids, they are still learning the trade? And this was the ideal opportunity for somebody like Jones to feed his way in.
Well, especially for defensemen, if you go around NHL sort of stuff for American League guys, they're saying, defensemen aren't coming onto their own till they're 25, 26, 27 years old after 4 or 5 years of seasoning in the minors. Well, you need to have that seasoning so you know when to jump up. There's no point being an absolutely dynamic player that can't play any defense when you're a defenseman. It doesn't matter if you've got the best defensive defenseman in the world. If you're always there and you're not getting backed up and you're giving up 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s all the time, then it's neither here nor there. It doesn't matter how much speed you have to be able to get back, but you have to be able to read the play as to when to go. And I think that's a big thing you see with a lot of the young defensemen now. They go, and then they go, oh, oops, maybe I shouldn't have gone because it's gone back the other way because there's nobody covering. It's great to, we say it when we're doing all the young kids is, whatever ice you have in front of you, take the ice that you can. Take as much ice as you can until you get confronted. Once you get confronted by it, now you got to know what your options are. Are your options A, to go left with it, B, to go right with it, or C, to try to dipsy-doodle and go around the guy? You're looking at your safest options. That is first. Your most dangerous option is to try and take on somebody 1-on-1, 1-on-2, 1-on-3, as opposed to saying, well, okay, I'll just chip it by, let my forwards do the work because the coach wants me to be playing defense as well. So you have to be able to, same I always give my forwards in practice grief when my D-men go. I said, you got to get back because half my forwards can't skate backwards properly. They can't read the play like you can. I want my D-man to play D, not necessarily always lead the rush, but geez, get up there and be part of the rush. Get in it, be the fourth guy, be the third guy if you can get up there. If you can lead a rush to a certain point and not get caught down below the goal line for an extended period of time and not be able to play in your own end, and then you're forcing someone like Liam or Brendan to be behind the net for 30, 40 seconds of their first shift, they can't then be the offensive guy that you want them to be, can they? Because they get tired out in their own end, they got 15 seconds to do something, and you want them to be 45 seconds in the other end. So it's that sort of seasoning where you learn to jump up in the play. It was like when I came over. I wasn't the most offensive guy in North America. I got points here, there, and everywhere. But over here, if you didn't get up in the play and score points, simply what was it? Get on the plane and get out of here. So that's what it was. Now I think it's the other way around. If you're an offensive guy, you don't have to score 70 points. If you can score 30 points as a D, yeah, I think that's pretty good as an offensive D in this league. If you can contribute, but again, know how to play defense, have a good partner, like Jonathan said, they split the D up. Everyone was saying, oh, lefties with lefties and righties with righties. Who cares? It doesn't really matter. Play defense. Some guys like left, some guys like right. Some guys don't care. You want to go out there and you want to play and you want to show, like you said, with Jonesy, that, yeah, I can get up in the play. I'm 100 mile an hour. I can get up in there. I can do everything offensively. Now, we've seen that part. Now let's see you be plus and positive in your own end and doing everything right. The proper control, the proper contain, the proper swarm when you need to, proper net front guy, reading the play when to jump up. And then, then all of a sudden that years of experience, accumulate, and then you get that rounded guy, don't you?
Yeah. So let's just stick on Jones a second. Kieran, thumbs up, thumbs down? In the Elite Series, I think I'm going with thumbs up. I think thought he came out of it pretty well. And the fans on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they seem to like the kid as well, didn't they?
Yeah, big thumbs up from myself and from Twitter. I mean, fans see the passion of things and the bleeding orange that we talk about on social media. And Sam Jones just seems to have got that ticker somewhere with him. Great play on the ice, great offensive play. I think, yes, he maybe needs to work on that all-rounded game, but he's very, very young. But on several occasions, we saw him sticking up for himself, sticking up for his goalie, sticking up for teammates. And sometimes you look down on the ice and there were scrambles in front of the net and you thought it were going to be maybe Davey or Saxon Danielson that were going to come out of this scrum, and suddenly it was Sam Jones, and you think there's something there, and fans really conned onto that and like him. So, yeah, long in orange.
Did you like what you saw, Jonathan?
I did, yeah. I mean, he looked okay in Fife, but that was a poor Fife team last year, and it was, not easy for a defenseman to stand out on a 10th placed team. He didn't just stand out to me; he stood out to Pete Russell as well. He's made the GB squad, so that tells you really all you need to know. There were some other good performances by other British D-men, and Sam Jones has gone above some of them.
Ron, you're one of the club's leading all-time defensemen. Talk to us about this defence that Aaron has put together, and whether you could see the likes of Danielson, Scholze, Boudry, these guys being a part of the Steelers ongoing. Were you impressed with them as defensemen?
I think so, yeah. I mean, what you saw out of the whole group of them is they're all offensive minded defensemen. They can all get up into play. They can all contribute that way. They're good first passers. Again, if you don't make a good first pass, everything breaks down. If you can't get the puck from your defense to your forwards, there's no point. You have to have guys that can move the puck and move it in the right option in the right time at the right time to find and pick it out. And overall, that lot, all of them have. And Davies the same. Davies learned that over the last few years as well. He can get up into play. He does pop into areas. He shoots the puck hard when he needs to, and he makes those good offensive plays as well. So I put him in there as well. He has the ability. One thing I would say is over 60 or whatever we're going to play next year. I'm assuming probably over that, won't it? By the time it's playoffs and pre-season, it's usually 70 odd games, isn't it? Is that a lot of games for some of the guys going into, not in a big rink? You're going into Manchester and getting pounded by Finner's team. You're going into Cardiff and getting hit with 4 lines solid all the time. You're going into Coventry, smaller rink, and you're getting guys in your face all the time. And that's one thing I think we were a little bit privileged to watch. All the players on a big ice. It didn't suit all the players. There are some of the bigger guys that on the smaller ice, they're fantastic players, but on the bigger ice, they looked a bit slower. They didn't look as though they were in the right place at the right time. But again, you're not building your team for away games, are you?
No.
You're building your team for your home games, what your home building is. Because if you win what 70? What Jonathan just that guy about 80% of your home games and 50 on the road or 60 on the road. You should be pretty close to being in that top two, somewhere in there. So you build around what you do in your building. So if you've got a building that's happy to be going flying all the time, build for it, and then just hopefully your coaching comes through in the smaller rinks where you know how to then play it a little bit easier, and hopefully you're not getting your guys getting pounded all the time for no reason. And in that sense, yeah, he's got a good mix. I know last year he had Transiski was a big guy. He could take the heavy hitting if he needed to. You had
Robert.
You had a whole bunch of guys, that Aaron Johnson. These guys can all take the big pounding because they weren't huge men, but they were seasoned, solid performers. Whereas you get the Beaudry and Schultz, littler guys, can they be pounded for 60 games if they do?
I had a quick look down Facebook and Twitter, Kieran, and some fans going, they want them all back. Some fans saying they don't want any of them back. But you've got to remember that Tronsinski might come back into the fold. AJ might come back into the fold. You just don't know what's out there. Rabel was somebody who impressed me, and I thought he was pretty steady the whole series, Kieran.
Same, yeah. Again, another thumbs up for Rabel, and somebody like you spot on. Doesn't really get the plaudits on social media and things like that, but I sometimes think a defenseman in a Rabel's mould, if I don't hear anything about him on social media, it means he's done his job. He's a D-man that actually shouldn't be noticed because he just does that job. He does it very well. A seasoned pro. And I thought he had a really, really good tournament. And, if you partnered him back up with Tronsinski or someone in that mould, again.
I want to jump in and disagree. I don't think Hrabal was as good as he has been. I thought he was fine. I thought he did okay. But there were more times in this tournament than there were last year when he made the wrong decision, when he got caught in possession, when he pinched, when he should have dropped back. Last year, I thought that pairing with Tronsinski was probably the Steelers' best in terms of the balance, and maybe he would have been different had he been playing with Tronsinski, but I don't think we saw Hrabal at his absolute best, and I certainly think we saw more mistakes out of him in this tournament than we have previously. Not saying he was bad, I just don't think he was close to where he was in the last.
Is that because of the defensive partner that he's playing with? He has the ability to do certain different things. This is what I mean when you put a pairing together. You put an offensive guy and a defensive guy and hope it works out. Well, not necessarily. You have to have the right build of the two partners together. And I think, like you said, with Tronsinski last year, Rabel didn't have to do an awful lot as much as what he was doing in the first few games in the series. He was up and down the ice all over the place, wasn't he? He was doing some stuff that was a little bit uncharacteristic that we didn't see last year during the regular season. So then all of a sudden you swap the partnership around, and I thought he got better as we went along. Which it's like anything. If you find that right mix, it's the right mix of a forward line. You find the right three guys that complement each other, they'll rip it up, no matter who you put against them.
Who was your ideal partner? Who was the best partner you played with in Sheffield that made it easier for you?
Daryl Andrews, Mark Laniel.
Yeah,
they were both. And Daryl was great. He said, just put him to the middle of the ice. I want to kill somebody. I'm going to come across and do a huge hip check on him. And so you'd play guys into the middle of the ice, and you knew that if you got out of the way, you're okay. Mark Laniel, smart, great player, up and down. Kevin Vollebrook, smart players, ideal players, good guys to play with. Yeah, even the old Dion Darling. We would scream and shout at each other in the changing room, like literally toe to toe, nose to nose, and on the ice, we worked well together as a pair. So it doesn't matter, And it wasn't anything you'd be going, what are you doing that for? What are you doing? Will you shut up? You should be doing this. You should be doing that. And then on the ice, we're just, you just played well off each other.
Yeah.
So I've had there's four pretty good ones right there.
Yeah. I think one or two will come back from this series. I must admit, I just have a feeling. I hope Rabel comes back because I do like Rabel. But Jonathan, if Rabel came back and if Tronsinski came back, I think we'd be delighted with that pairing, wouldn't we?
Oh yeah, I'm not saying at all that Rabel had a bad tournament. I thought he had a good tournament. I just don't think he was as good as he'd been before, and there's so many reasons that could be the case. Because it's a weird tournament for for a lot of different reasons. So there's plenty of inbuilt excuses there. But yeah, no, more than happy to have him back. I would really love Beaudry back. He's the one that stands out for me. Whether that'll be possible or not, I don't know. But he sort of tried to lead the offense from defense, and he was top of a whole bunch of stats categories. He led the team in shots. He was so good at carrying the puck down the ice, and he picked his moments well. There weren't too many occasions when he decided to carry the puck through neutral ice and got caught out. I thought his decision-making was good. And in terms of if there's no O'Connor, who can do the O'Connor role, I thought Beaudry could.
Kieran, what were your thoughts?
Yes, again, Beaudry, I think, started off quiet, became probably the leading defenseman by the end of the tournament. I thought Schulze was probably the other way. The Schulze, his speed was unbelievable. It just took me so much by surprise. I thought he was going to be the leading D-man. But yeah, I think if I would I'd pick two, I'd be picking Beaudry and Saxo Danielson for me. I like Saxo Danielson. I like the bite that he brings. And I think I enjoyed his all-round game, to be fair.
Ronnie, I quite like Schulze, and then we were just talking about replacing Ben O'Connor and the power play. But the reality was, Ben wasn't a mainstream on the power play last year, was he? Once Transinski came in, Tron kind of, excuse me, I'll take that role, thank you very much. Yeah, and
well, Ben was always one thing that you don't see a lot now on the power play is the top guy hammering pucks at the net. The top guy on your power play, he's a setup guy for your side one-timers or as Liam was pulling out a lot and finding him and coming in and doing that snap wrist shot. He's a leader from the top there, whereas when we were back there playing, we were there to shoot the puck. My job on a power play wasn't to try to pass it off. Mine was to try to pound it through everybody that was anywhere near the net.
Yeah.
Being realistic. And I don't think that's the top guy's job now. If the top guy's getting a shot, unless he's got an absolute open lane with guys in front of the net, he's moving the puck side to side to let them have that better, closer opportunity to get the goalies moving, because nowadays you have to get those goalies moving side to side because they're just too good to, one-on-one, they shouldn't be letting anything in from that far out. If they see it, there's no way they should let it go. But anything from the side where they've got to move and they've got to look around, you saw how well May did in front of net, with Cangelosi and those guys shooting pucks and Talbot Tassi putting them, short side shelf on guys. You saw Dowdy putting him in. You saw Liam doing it 5-hole with Danielson with Olden in front sometimes, and with Myers in front. Goalies have to look around these guys now, and if not, you've got the shooters that can shoot the puck and take that one step and pop it in a corner with that little bit of a screen. So I think Transinski, for as much as I don't think he didn't overly pound the puck hard. He could shoot the puck hard, but I don't remember him scoring 10 goals, wiring them from the blue line. I don't remember anybody scoring any goals like that, really, and getting into double digits just by pounding the puck from the top. The top guy is more the pass guy, the bump guy, to the side guy, down low, backdoor stuff. They're all trying to do a bit more fancy plays other than literally, Ovechkin's the only one that still does that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He absolutely pounds, 50 pucks a year from that side and scores 35.
Well, last year the Steelers had Michael Davies doing that role, and they sort of moved towards Dowd doing it this year. Hewitt had a couple of goes over there. But in terms of those shots from the blue line that you were talking about, essentially Beaudry scored 2 of those in one game, and that's about it for the Steelers' power play from the blue line. They weren't looking to score from there. Was it an effective decoy? Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, that's not where they were trying to score the goals from.
Okay, let's turn to goaltending, because that's all we seem to discuss for 5 weeks after Muse's injury, and then how well the kids did then coming in. Kieran, again, looking through social media today, young Churchfield seemed to be taking a bit of a pounding, which I thought was a little unfair on the lad. Because he started so well, then it did die off, and then obviously when one of your own Warburton comes in, he's always going to get the cuddly support, isn't he? But what's your view on the 3? Do any of those 3 make our lineup come September, October?
I know it's a very, very short window, but I think after the first 20 minutes, we did see Muse before unfortunately got injured. I think he was absolutely brilliant in that first 20 minutes. Clearly, he did get injured and it took a while to come back. And I still don't think he was 100% by the time it was finished. He wasn't moving quite right and things. So I feel a bit bad saying it because I don't think we've seen the best of Muse, but from what I did see in those semi-finals and the finals, I would say no. Then you look at Warburton and Churchfield. I can't say personally I see too much between them, and then I go on age and experience. I think, well, Churchfield's got 5-6 years on Warburton, so how good could Warburton be in 5-6 years? I'd be going a new import netminder and Warburton myself.
Here's the thing, Jonathan. You and I are going to debate now whether it's Warburton or Churchfield, and we're going to then knock over to Ronnie. And if we remember one of the conversations we had just after we'd finished recording one of our shows, Ronnie actually thinks Warburton shouldn't be in Sheffield next year. He thinks he should be in Italy, Spain, Germany, no, Sweden or somewhere like that, playing under 23s and learning his career more out that way. Whilst perhaps more so me than anybody, but we all think Sheffield is the be-all and end-all. There are other options outside Sheffield that maybe some of these young lads might want to take.
Yeah, as good as a goaltending coach can be, you get better playing games. You'll develop more if you get a chance to start 40 games a season rather than starting 4. And being realistic across 52 league games and a handful of Challenge Cup games, how many games is Warburton going to start? Would he start any? Maybe he'd start a couple if you're already through. So he's not going to develop as much as a goalie for the Steelers next year as he would as a starting goalie for somebody else. Ben Churchfield has already done his development by playing 3 years of pro hockey. Yeah, just a little bit of tidying up some technical areas of his game. That's what he'll benefit from. He can do that while he's backing up the best import the Steelers can afford. So for me, it's import and Churchfield backing up with Warburton away, getting as many starts as he can for whatever team he can in the best league he can.
So, Ron, I've just appointed you as young Warburton's agent, and you can send him pretty much anywhere and do anything with him. What's best for him, and then what's best for us?
Well, you look at the differences between the two goalies. I had one of the other younger netminders was talking with Cole, and says Jordan Headley saying that what's the difference between the two netminders? He said that Churchfield is technically better. If you actually watch him, how he moves in the net, technically he's better, but Warburton is bigger. So Warburton gets a chance to stop shots without seeing them because he's a bigger goalie. Whereas Churchfield, a bit smaller, has to be that bit quicker in the net and maybe uses angles a bit more and develop that sense. And I think that's where, like you say, the proper goaltending coach at an under 23s. Aaron Fox has connections all over Europe, doesn't he? You're telling me that he can't find an under 23s team for a signed Sheffield kid that you sign once he comes back from that under 23s league in 2 years' time or 3 years' time after, like you say, Jonathan, playing 30 games each year in that sort of league and getting the shooting that he's going to want to get to improve, getting that technical stuff. We don't have a goaltending coach in Sheffield.
And is that something
you have an import that helps them?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because when I went over to Germany with Paul, it was interesting that every single team had at least one. You know, there were some clubs that had 2 goaltending coaches.
And skills coaches as well, not just for the young kids, but for the seniors as well, working on individual skills. You look at in American League teams, East Coast League teams, junior teams, all North American teams, they'll have a skills coach, a properly trained full-time skills coach that stays on the ice after practice, or their days off they come in, or and that's everybody. Sidney Crosby was losing face-offs one year in the playoffs, stayed out with a skills coach in the playoffs every day after practice, and by the time game 4, 5, 6 comes around, he wasn't losing a face-off ever. So anyone can learn with the proper coaching, teaching techniques, watching video of yourself, seeing it and working on it. It's no good having a video of yourself, sending it away to a coach in Canada, the coach in Canada putting a few notes down and sending it back to you. Well, lots of people do it different ways. Some people need to be shown how to do it properly. Some people are better on a video. Some people are better written down. Some people are better just talking. So you have to find what's best for the player you want. And if the Steelers want to have him, invest in him. Just like you put him on an apprentice team. It doesn't have to be on your team. Invest on him, put him away, and say, well, we'll pay half for this kid to go away. Knowing that in those years, he comes back. He runs the camps with you at the beginning of the year. Yeah, he goes off to his team when it starts. then you see him, don't you? He comes back
fine.
after the playoffs. You put him in as your third goalie in the lineup.
Yeah. Just finally on goaltending, did you see enough from Muse that he'll be considered for the number one spot? Because I think it was unfair on him because there was not a chance he was fit for the.
No, I mean, I picked up a few times on his leg, trying to push across, trying to stand up. Once, if there was a concerted effort in his own end, if there was pressure, sometimes you could see him just sort of struggle to get up on the one side, and I'm like, yeah, he's definitely not 100%. But then he was still making some pretty decent saves when needed, And I think, like Kieran said, we only saw 20 minutes, 23 minutes or whatever the heck it was. And even then it was like, well, what happened to him? We were watching the game and all of a sudden he's skating off the ice and it wasn't anything, that he did. I'm sure he just went out and stopped the puck behind the net and then all of a sudden he's getting helped off by the referee after a whistle. Yeah. So it's something that you'd like to see more of him fully fit. But do you take that chance or do you have your feelers out now to see if there's somebody better that you haven't seen yet?
Do you think the Steelers went with the 2-goalie system at the start of the year with not just Duba? He was meant to be the experienced backup to Pavel Cantor. So you wonder if there could be the option of bringing in 2 import netminders, at least to start the season, until someone establishes that position as their own.
Depends on what you want to do as a coach for your import thing. If you want to tie up 2 imports out of 14 in net,
you'd have one as a spare, wouldn't you? And then you'd have your British goalie. Your British guy would
bring up that game, Simsy, where Nottingham had 2 import goalies and they had played one and one got hurt.
Exactly.
And Sheffield came back. So you look at it, yeah, you can, but if you've got the inexperienced guys and then your team doesn't want to play fully committed defense in front of a young guy, which I don't think the Steelers did at some points. They left the young kids out, hang them out to dry a few times. There was plenty of 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, 4-on-2s, breakaways that, you do that to your experienced goalies. Don't leave it to the guy that's 18 or 19 in there or someone that's just coming out and hasn't played an awful lot. Tighten up a little bit, play defense first. You're always going to score 4 goals a game.
The problem is that it's so hard to develop anybody when the league is the be-all and end-all. Because in North America or in Europe, everybody plays for the playoffs. So therefore, during your 50, 60 games, you can experiment. And Brad Day would have played 20 games instead of playing 2 games. But because we are such a league-orientated league, and game 1 is as important as game 52, and the pressure is on, it's always going to be hard, not just goalies, but to develop the kids.
Yeah, it will be because you're not getting the quality game time. You look at, like I said before, you look at how many of those younger guys that got put into first or second line playing with 2 imports. They did a pretty darn good job instead of, throwing them down and leaving them on the 3rd and 4th line and getting 8 minutes a game. Some of these guys were up at 15, 16, 18 minutes and they were contributing. And they were contributing more than just dump it in and go hit somebody, get off the ice. It was create something, use your speed, use your smarts, get to the net, look for open guys, play the puck like you can. And that's what we need to do. Instead of, like you say, putting 3 Bretts out on the 4th line, well, put 1 on each line, put 2 imports in each line, and away you go.
Just going to a player that never played in the tournament. Surely, Jonathan, we'll go to you, Kieran. Young Kieran Brown would have benefited from playing in this series, surely. And you know what? Okay, hindsight is wonderful when you get age and maturity comes with it. But God, you'll look back and think, I'd have had a chance.
I'm gutted with Kieran Brown, to be honest, because you could argue that he's got as much natural talent, if not more, than anybody that's stepped on the ice in the last few years, including potentially even Liam Kirk. When you look at what he could do, it's a massive loss for the Steelers, and I hope it's not a massive loss for the Elite League if we don't see him back at this standard. I mean, certainly not pointing to any reasons why he didn't play, but I hope, in the nicest way possible, I hope in hindsight it does hurt and it drives him to get back to this standard, because let's be honest, he should be playing at this standard. It can be that good, I think.
He was better than a lot of the players on the ice, wasn't he, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Chamberlain essentially took his place, and Kieran Brown's a world ahead of Bobby Chamberlain. I like Bobby Chamberlain, but I'll take Kieran Brown every single day of the week over Bobby. And Chamberlain got plenty of ice time for the Panthers. They rolled 4 lines all the way through the tournament. I know sometimes that extra forward was one of the scratches for the Panthers, but Kieran Brown's missed out on a winner's medal, and you don't know how many of those you're going to get in your career. So, yeah, opportunity missed. And
it's not just the winner's medal, though, is it, Ron? It's the opportunity to play, the minutes, and who you're going to be playing in front of, who's watching you.
Yeah, it's all an experience, isn't it? You want to try and play at the best level that you can, and you want to showcase what you can do. And if you're not given the opportunity, he may have thought he might have been not got the opportunity, and it would have been same old, fourth line and do nothing. You get one shift a game, and he wasn't prepared to do that. He wanted maybe to play a more of an offensive role, or maybe play with higher up the lineup. But we'll never know, will we?
No. Let's go to the forwards then. Somebody who certainly took his moment in orange and in the spotlight was Young Waller. He seemed to impress us all. And again, Kieran, I'll turn to you. And I was looking at the old social media before coming on here. Certainly very popular. And I think if you gave everybody a vote of who they'd like to see come back next year as the new guys, he'd probably top the poll.
I think we just moved on from Kieran Brown. I think you've got the two complete opposites. You've got Brown, who in hindsight, like I said, may have regretted this, and you've got Waller, who, to be honest, when he was signed, there probably weren't a person in a Steelers fan that really mentioned his name. He was just an extra skater, probably fourth line, and he's turned into the one which probably out of anybody is the one that they want Fox to sign for next year. His speed absolutely amazed me. Puck control absolutely amazed me. He's a small guy, he is, but he's got time to probably put a bit of muscle on and things like that as well. But very, very impressive, and he's made a name for himself in this tournament. He took his chance.
Can Waller be a third-line player in a top elite league team, Jonathan?
In a few years, yeah. I still think if he was to start a season, start next season on the Steelers roster, it would be on the fourth line. I'm not sure what plans Guildford or other teams would have, but I think at the moment with the players we expect the Steelers to have, he'd be a fourth liner. But yeah, he can certainly develop because, that skating speed is always going to be dangerous. And he showed that he's got a good sense for goal. He's finished the 3 goals that he took really smartly. So, if you've got goal scorer's instincts, you're getting into good areas and, you can skate like the wind. There's going to be a place for you. There's still obviously other things you'll need to add to your game, but, he's young enough to do that. So I'd certainly be happy to see him back on the Steelers because I've seen enough to think that there's plenty to work with.
Pleasing on the eye, Ron, but is his all-round game? Did you see it?
Yeah, I did. He played well in his own end. He did the job along the wall. But what I think of is again, you're demoting the player because he's British to the fourth line. If he's got the ability now to play with 2 decent imports, why don't you play him with 2 decent imports? And that's the difference between Sheffield, Belfast, Cardiff, Fife, Dundee. Yeah, you look at the bigger teams and the smaller teams. Smaller teams will allow those guys to play with them because they may not have the budget to bring in the 14 imports, or they can't bring in 25 imports when some get hurt or leave. They've got to stick with 16 out of the whole thing, and you do your maths again, and 15% of your roster is going to be hurt at any given time. 15% of your imports is 2 or 3 imports are going to be hurt during the year. If you do have no one to replace them with, we're lucky. We got Jono, we got Dowdy. You got players that can do that. But the
reality is that if he was in Sheffield,
yeah,
nobody knows what's going to happen with Liam. But let's just say, for the purpose of the argument, Liam's in. Young Waller's not going to play above Kirky, and he's not going to play above Dowdy. So is it better for him, and I guess we go back to Warburton there, but probably a bit more of advanced level, is it better for Waller to actually go and play at a Fife, go and play at a Dundee, go and play at a team where he's going to play a shed load, he's going to get good minutes, or is it better for him to come into the glory, if you like, of the big arena and the Steelers or the Giants or the Devils or the Panthers?
It depends on what the player wants to do themselves. If they're happy to come in and know that their role might be totally diminished down to 4 or 5 minutes a game for 2 or 3 seasons, whereas you can go and play in a smaller club and you're getting 12 to 14 minutes a game playing on a second. Because I think Josh was playing sort of second, third line last year.
Yeah.
Why would you want to drop down to a bigger team and play fourth line? Another example, Kieran Long. What was he doing in Manchester? Played every position, everywhere, scoring goals left, right, and center. Signed for big money to go to Belfast, and what did he turn into? What did he have, about 8 goals last year?
I don't think he had that, did he?
Do you know what I mean? No. He went from nearly 30, I can't remember, 30 goals or whatever.
Didn't he score in like January, February, his first goal, and his mum tweeted about time, which was the
but
best,
that's what I'm
best
saying.
tweet last year.
And then you put him back into this Elite League series. You
And
put
he
him back up in the top. So and what does he do? Bang, bang, bang. Putting the puck in the back of the net on the power play, whatever, regular shit, and he doesn't look out of place on those lines. So again, the player has to decide what they want to do. If the player is not comfortable, not happy to do that, why should then he be wanting to sign and play for a team like that? Go play somewhere else. It's like it's same as with Liam. What says that Liam wants to come back and play in Sheffield? Why doesn't he want to go play in Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Sweden?
But the very fact that he'd be an import there, though, wouldn't he?
Doesn't matter. You can still. He's got the credentials to go play there as a 21-year-old. We've had 21-year-olds come over and play in our league as imports. So you can play in a.
I think if Liam got the chance to go and play in the Allsvenskan, or if Liam got the chance to go and play in I don't think DL2 would do him any good, but DL, which I don't think he will, because I don't think he is the import. Yeah. But if he had the chance to go and play, say, in the Allsvenskan, like Dowdy, that would be a career move for him. Would be a terrific move.
But if you've got a smaller team in any one of those top leagues that doesn't have the budget that have all the big ones do, they could take a chance on a younger guy that has decent numbers. Yeah. And you say, well, we'll stick him. We'll give him a chance on the third line. We'll see what he can do. If he gets this 12 goals or 8 goals, he's done exactly what we want. We don't need him to score 30. That's what our guys that are making 10 times as much are going to do. He's going to be He's going to be our 8th import, not our 1st import.
I think the other point just to put out there as well is it depends what the Elite League go in regard to the under-23 rule. When we're talking about Churchfield and things like that, the under-23 rule might make a big difference to your Churchfield and Wallers, and how extra important having those GB guys that are under-23 come onto a squad.
I think we're lucky though. We've got young Graham as well, haven't we? That kind of would fit that bill. I was going to jump onto Hewitt, but we've just mentioned Graham. Got a goal, had a great chance, didn't he, in the final when he just found on that one. And Ron, you and I on the broadcast, we mentioned a couple of times we have to, we built Graham up, but we have to remember he's still a young pup.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's still a young kid. He's still learning how to do it. Everybody knows, and I think he knows that he needs to get faster. He needs to get smarter on the puck. The dipsy doodle stuff is going to work, for over a period of 3 or 4 feet. But you now need to separate yourself from somebody after you make that good move to give yourself a good scoring chance, or you need to get from blue line to blue line from a standstill to get yourself up in a play. And I think that's one thing that he needs to work on. He needs to get that. He's got the high end skill set. He doesn't have the high end speed to stay up and get up into play and be that guy going down the ice, charging down the ice, and being able to have that end product. He's not that developed yet.
A guy who certainly developed, perhaps hasn't got the speed, but it was great to see him back in Orange again, Jonathan, and maybe it was for a hurrah or whatever, but Jason Hewitt never lets you down, does he?
No, he had a sort of fairly slow start to the tournament. First couple of games, I think, getting up to speed, and I'm not sure he was at his best right at the very end, but there was a period of about 6 or 7 games through the middle of the tournament. I think he scored goals in 5 straight games, and it was like we'd gone back 10 years in time. It was the old Jason Hewitt again, contributing even strength, contributing on the power play, contributing short-handed. It was that all-round experience and leadership that we came to know and love from the British Bulldog. I'd seen him a lot for the Steel Dogs and seen him play for the Pirates, and you know that the talent is still there. It's just, had he got enough left in the tank, and this series proved that, for this series he absolutely had.
Kieran, you and I were in an empty building and we could hear everything, and I'd just forgotten just how vocal Jason is. He's one of the all-time best put-downers of a linesman and a referee. I think you're allowed 10 mistakes, linesman, you're at 9, and we were 4 minutes into the game or something like that. But Jason, he holds a special place as well in fans' hearts, and we've seen that again on social media as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, as soon as they were announced, we were just waiting for that name to come through. We'd sort of got wind that Foxy might be going for him and what have you. And then when his name was announced, social media blew up. I mean, it was just a fairy tale story. And how good was it? I mean, what I didn't want to happen was for Jason to come back and actually not be able to keep up and so on, and actually not ruin his legacy, but not keep up with his legacy that he's got. And actually, he's done himself no harm at all. I mean, there's people calling for him to come back for a full season now. I'm not calling on that to happen. I don't know whether he's got the legs for 60, 70 games, but I can't remember at any point in the tournament thinking he's tired, he needs to come off, he's had too much, or he just kept going and going, and he was a bulldog that he always has been. It was great to see.
Ronnie, I chair the Jason Hewitt fan club, but even I would say, hey, I think that would ruin the legacy if he did come back for another full season. I think this has been a lovely way for him to, whether he goes to play for the Still Dogs, whether Hull get reincarnated again, whatever, or whether he just, he's got a life, he's got 2 great kids, super wife, and a good job outside the game at his age. But this was fitting, this little series for him.
Oh yeah, and he, like you say, he did exactly what he needed to do. He came in, he played well. He didn't diminish himself in any respect. He was still in there trying to block shots. He was in there on the face-offs when needed. He was in first in the corner. He was first in front of the net. He was digging away. Had a push and a shove here once in a while. I think he's very much more mature playing in the elite league than he was playing in for Hull, because obviously a little bit different standard there, and a little bit more, let's say, uncontrolled in that league. But when you've got to step up and you have that experience, you can, and he does. He's great for the game. He works hard. He plays it the right way. He helps the young guys the right way. He shows them and tells them and tries to teach them as well. The ways of what you need to do as a pro. It doesn't matter if you're 21 or 41. You've got to try to do something to stand out. You've got to do something, and you've got to work hard off the ice. You got to work hard on the ice. You've got to keep yourself in shape. Jonathan Phillips is another one. You look at him go in the gym, and he's throwing weights around that some of the 23, 24, 25, 28-year-olds couldn't do, and he's 40. You know what I mean? He's the same. He's that same sort of old school mentality that can play, but they have to work their backside off, and they do work their backside off to actually still play.
Let's look at next year then. Do I say, all things being equal, and if we're all in Aaron's head at the moment, Everly's a tick. We'd like to see Ebbs back, Cons back, yeah? Any, Cons, Dowdy, Kirky, Jono, all those guys. Were there any, McKiska, he did things occasionally, didn't he?
I like him as a third line center. Yeah, put him as a third line center. With 2 other guys. You don't have to rely on him to be too creative. Sometimes he did try to do a little bit too much. He turned the puck over at the blue line a couple of times, and it didn't work out too well. But that's a player that's trying to do something in the time that he's on the ice, maybe at a certain time in a game. Every player, once in a while has to do a little one-man band thing just to see if they can, try and turn the tide. It's as long as you're not doing it constantly and you're doing the same mistake and turning it over at the same time, and the wrath of the coach is always coming out. But he's good on the power play. He was decent on face-offs, I think, Jonathan, wasn't he? So you and his all-round play, yeah, he was another one that started a little bit slow, I thought. But then as it went on, got used to what was required of him in the game and what his role was. And I thought he grew into it a lot more.
Jonathan, what were your thoughts on the forwards?
Yeah, I'll start with McKiska. I was impressed with him. In terms of the point you were talking about, in terms of maybe he tried to do too much, I don't think he did that until he sensed that he needed to do that. Yeah. Because earlier on in the tournament, other players were playing well, and he was happy to be the provider. He led the team in, not in assists, but also in first assists, the pass before the goal. He lapped the field with that. He got almost twice as many first assists as anybody else. His face-off percentage, it's just below 50, but it's close enough to not really be too much of a problem. But when it then came to the first leg of the final in particular, and Kirk's not there, McKiska realised, I've got to step up and deliver for this line. And he did. He took the lead. He scored the goal. He was trying to make that line work. So I liked his recognition of the situation that he couldn't play passively in that game. He had to be a leader. And I thought he stood up. It didn't always work for him, but I like the fact that he sensed the occasion and made those moves. So I'd be happy to see him back. Overall, there's not really much of a problem with the way the Steelers forwards played. I mean, look at all the goals that were scored. We were terrifically exciting. We scored, loads of 5-on-5 goals. We were exactly what we wanted to see from a Steelers hockey team. It was fast, it was exciting. There's a little bit of fine tuning that needs to be done over the course of a league season, but in general, from an entertainment point of view, the forwards delivered.
Okay, what about
sorry. Even the thing is, even though the final series didn't go the right way, they still created a ton of chances. And that's the thing. It's when your team stops creating chances. It's not that they're not putting the puck in the net. Well, the other team's job is to not let you put the puck in the net, isn't it? So the goalie stands on his head. If you have to create 10 chances to score 1 goal, well, you've got to create 10 chances. If you can score goals on 3 chances, even better. But it's just the way the game goes. They did not stop creating chances, and that's what's positive about the lineup that they had. Is every line. It wasn't just one line that was creating the chances. All the way through created the chances. So that's a very good positive thing. And chances came from the defense. But like you said, some players felt the need they had to stand up and tried to do something. And some players thought other players were standing up and I can kind of, get through it and I'll just pop up and score the goal or make that pass when I need to. And those are the ones that you gotta give them a little push once in a while to be, hey, time for you to step up now. These guys have been stepping up on your line. Your turn to carry it a little bit.
Who were the people on social media, Kieran? Who was anybody on Twitter loving?
Yeah,
it was the love.
He's got a lot of love. I mean, just a mention for Holden. I know we can't keep him this year. I mean, he's sort of different gravy. I think I used on a few occasions. His skating was unbelievable. Holden, clearly a lot of love for Holden. I think what I saw and from social media is that there was a point where McKeesker, Ebley, Kirk were on the line for a good few games, and for a couple of games, I think they nearly got every one of them got the goal over a couple of games. It reminded me so much of that Dowd, Nelson, Valdix line, and it'd be interesting to see whether, again, we don't know where Kirk's going, but say Kirk was around with McKeesker and Ebley first line player, McKeesker, like you said, second, third, but does Fox keep that? Would Fox keep those three together just because the chemistry was so good between them? There was just something there. So McKeesker is the one for me. Really impressed with McKeesker. Like I say again, Holden, I'll give a shout out to Holden, but he's on a different level for us for the next year. But
we say that, and when I speak to coaches, I'm always a bit wary. I expected more from Holden when it came down to the end, and I was a tad disappointed that I was looking for that player. I used the same comparison to you, Ron. When you played alongside Neil Abel, he wasn't there to make you better. You were there to make him better, and I wanted Holden to make everybody bigger and stronger and faster around him, and him to grab the ball by the horns.
I think he did, though. I think he did in a few of the games. I think he did make Liam better because he got Liam the puck in the areas that Liam needed to get the puck in to put the puck into the net. He did it with Dowdy a little bit. They swapped lines. Dowdy got a couple of goals as well. So I think. I guess
I mean you judge the big players on the big games, don't you?
Yeah, but a lot of big players don't look big, but on score sheets, they're all of a sudden, how did he end up with three a goal and 3 assists, or how did he get that? You didn't notice him. You don't notice him, but all of a sudden, he's there at the right time, making the play at the right time, holding the puck up at the right time. Making that little chip. Being the flashy guy that's 300 mile an hour, and everybody notices, everybody sees the guy. He's absolutely fly around the his little lightsaber.
Okay, forget the numbers. Forget the Kachindi numbers. Right now, if you could afford to have Sondre Holden as your first line centre next year for a full season, 3 of you will go from Jonathan to Kieran to Ron. Would you have Holden if you could afford to have him as your first line centre, Jonathan?
We wouldn't even be having this conversation if he'd taken one of those 2 chances in the third period of game 1 of the final.
Okay, so is that a yes or
both
no?
of those were missed, he drops down the list. If he'd scored that, equalised the game, who knows what happens in the rest of that series? I'm not going to let one miss cloud my judgment of what otherwise were.
So if budget allowed, you would. You'd have him as your first line. Okay, Kieran?
Yes. Yeah.
Ronnie?
Yep.
That's okay. Not for the first time, I'm outvoted.
Okay, so is he a first liner? Well, if you've got Valorant, Connolly, and DeLuca, then he will be a second liner. So yeah, is he?
But you're paying, but you know what? If you're paying him the kaching to, your first line centre's your first line centre. He's your number one pay guy, your number one go-to guy.
Yeah, it's the difference between 22 minutes a night and 21 minutes a night. It's not much.
Okay, so 3-1. Okay. We'll go and wait, see what he does in Swiss ability. But, nice guy, good player. Nobody was saying he was a bad player. I just wanted
more. You thought that there was more to come from. I do. I think there was more to come from. He showed. I
wanted Ken Priestley. I got Mark Mackey. That's what I got. It's
but he like I said, he didn't show a 60-minute game that he could play at that level 60 minutes. He would go out and show flashes of it. Then he would take a few shifts, half a period where he wasn't at that.
Yeah.
But if he stayed at that level, and if he was prodded enough and was made to stay at that level, then he could sustain staying at that level easily.
Yeah.
First time in this country, bubble environment.
Yeah, sure.
I'm giving him a bit more of a free pass, I think, for some of those down moments.
Okay, so let's turn to the coach. Let's just finish off then on this Elite Series experience for us all. What would the coach Ron have learned from the last 5 weeks?
He would have learned that he can trust a few more players in certain situations. I think, like you say, with the British guys, he put a lot of trust in guys in defensive zone starts and things like that, and not always having to be a neutral zone start, or, to be fair, even offensive zone starts. Usually you see a fourth line goes out, they create something for 15 seconds, they get the whistle in the offensive zone, and coach yanks them off the ice right away. Well, yeah, they've done their job, but you're not giving them an opportunity to actually show that they can do something else. And there's a few times he leaves those guys on the ice and they still create. They hem Cangelosi's line in their end for 35 or 40 seconds. Well, now you've done your job. Now you've done a fantastic job by keeping a number one line hemmed behind their goal line so that they can't go down and then try and score on you. So I think it's like any coach, you have to learn as the series or as games go on what some players are capable and what some aren't. And I think he's seen some very good positives out of some of the guys, definitely.
Jonathan, what did Ivan Fox prove to you?
I think he learned that both Churchfield and Warburton can give him a weekend. If the Steelers import netminder gets hurt on the Friday training and we've got to go into a home game against Belfast and a road game against Guildford, both of those netminders give you a chance to win that weekend. And that's all the British backup essentially needs to do across the course of a league season. Because when both of those came into games, they excelled during the games. When they got starts, they played well. They played well enough. And he knows now that Churchfield can do that backup role. He knows that Warburton can do that backup role. Good enough to start yet? No, we've learned that as well. But for the role that they'll need next season, he can trust whichever way he chooses to go. I think he'll also realise that Balint Pecosdy might be worth another look. Is there going to be a spot for him on the roster? Maybe, maybe not. Trying to work out where he's going to fit in. He's probably going to have to beat out Alex Graham. But there were enough flashes there from a 21-year-old to think, kid's got something. I liked his instincts. Once he was playing on a regular third unit rather than just alongside Myers with an extra winger joining in, I thought you saw his game really come on as the tournament went on. I'm not sure there's going to be a space for him in the team, but I certainly think it's going to be a consideration.
Aaron Fox is the fans' darling still, isn't he, Kieran, on social media? And rightly so. He's done nothing but impress since the day he walked into town. And his work ethic, the way he stayed around in the summer, everything he's done, he's just proving that point.
Yeah, definitely. There's nothing bad to be said about him. I mean, he came in with a resume of being a recruiter. What was his coaching resume like? Probably a bit like, but an amazing guy, an amazing coach. I mean, just a quick shout out to Fox as well. I think it was the second semi-final. He'd had a tooth pulled. I think he'd had an abscess, something like that. The amount of pain and things, he was in a bad way, but to get through that game and do what he could on that night, it just shows the character that he's got. No bad words on Fox.
Yeah. Just to conclude, I mean, the whole Elite Series run, it was terrific. A lot of hard work. The owners, predominantly it was Tony and Neil Black who got this going, and then, Jamie and Mike Halliday got involved as well, and I think Todd Kelman from the league and Luke came across. It was hell of an effort. Michael Hicks put in incredible amount of hours as well, just to pull this off and give fans 5 weeks, because from last March to next September, October, that was too long to go without hockey, wasn't it?
Oh, for sure. And you look at all the other people behind the scenes, all the camera guys and Davey and all these guys that were in the control room that you know, there was a lot of grief going on about this, that, and the other in the stream going on, and the amount of running around that they were doing to make sure that everybody could have an opportunity to watch hockey and to watch a pretty decent series of 4 pretty evenly matched teams. And it just goes to show that, you know, when everything's pushing in the right direction, you know, it can be very, very successful. And you know, it's something great that happened. Got the players a chance to play, got some players a chance to come over and be seen, whether they're imports or not. Got the British young guys a chance to be seen, to showcase what they've got. Some of the GB guys that needed the ice to get out there to do for world championships. So, you know, you go down the list and tick all the boxes, and you know, you're always going to have some doubters out there that are, you know, if you didn't have them, what's the point in arguing with anybody? You know, everybody's seen what some of them put on social media, and it's like, you know, grab a brain and get behind. Doesn't matter what team you support, get behind the game of ice hockey and support the game, and knowing that, hey, the game can still continue in this country, and it needs to continue for entertainment and for enjoyment of a lot of people.
The Elite League ticked every box, didn't they, Jonathan?
I couldn't have felt more safe in that venue, couldn't have felt more looked after. And at every step of the way, I felt it was a completely professional setup, from all the organisation that took place before the tournament happened to everything that happened during it, and some stuff that's happened in the last couple of days. Was made to feel nothing but welcome and a valued part of the team. I couldn't have personally asked for anything more.
We've all got our apps, haven't we, that we all had to do all our stuff on before we came into every game. Ron touched on a couple of teething problems at the very start, and it was a shame that first game when the webcast went down, and then there was the incident with the 11 seconds. But overall, it was a faultless production, and it was a great production. 7 cameras, God knows how many people were working on it. And Kieran, I think at the end, it kind of swung back in favour, didn't it? And I think everybody appreciated the show that they got.
Definitely. I mean, it was my first experience of a match night doing social media when the streams went down and everything else. 11 seconds, and it was just like, oh, this could be a fun 5 weeks. But
okay.
No, I mean, again, we've already said it, but the amount of hard work that went into this is beyond belief. And yes, the fans saw the product for 2 hours on each match night, but it's many hours by many people that should be very proud of what they've achieved over the last 5, 6. Well, I'm saying 5, 6 weeks. It's not. It's last 3, 4 months. Let's be honest. That got us to this point.
And the persistence as well. It took MPs. It took councils. It took, you know, governing bodies. It took a lot of kicking doors. And I think, you know, that's where our owner, Tony Smith, has to come in, because he wasn't prepared to let the door be locked. He was prepared to kick it down in a Sheffield type of way. And I think he should be applauded for that. We've gone just over an hour. Let's hope our new producer can put this out and can cut it correctly and do it all good. Dave Burnham Jr., we're going to start calling you Kieran if you get this right.
There we go.
But Kieran, thank you. Jonathan, as ever, the best play-by-play coverage of the Elite Series. And Ron, your insight was terrific all the way through the Elite Series, as it always has been. So, boys, thank you very much. Good night. Kieran?
Thank you.
Get this out, kid.
Thank you very much. I will do my best. Stay safe, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
We'll get away with it. Tristan Keck's going to go here. Tristan Keck shoots. He scores. Oh, what the heck, Tristan Keck? Big time as Yanni can't clear the zone. Chance for Erhard with a dig. Toe drag. He scores. Superb stuff from the captain.
You can rush with Alden, and here is Alden. Drop back. Goal. Short-handed.
Bettridge coming against 3 here. Still going Bettridge. Oh, what a goal! Ollie Bettridge makes it 1-0 to the Panthers. This one from Clements. Skating. Oh my goodness! David Clements! Are you kidding me?
Here comes Kirk. Trying to use his speed to catch out the Storm defence. Goes around, looks to the middle. What a move! What a goal!